Alright, so for this video, I have a coworker's lawnmower that I was asked to fix for him. And I've already repaired this piece. That is going to be a separate video if it's not been up already. He had this completely taken apart. The clock spring had unwound and he didn't know how to put it back in and get it working. His starter rope had broke when he was trying to start it, and of course it wouldn't start. So he thought he could just take it apart and redo it, and you know, most people don't really know how to do these, so I wasn't really surprised. But we have this Yard Machines lawnmower, and he has the air filter and air filter cover for it, so I'm going to have to cover those up when I wash this thing. But it's apparently not starting. I'm like 99% positive that it's a carburetor issue and it's those white jets that are inside, which I'm just going to replace those. I've found that most of the time you can clean them and they'll work again, and they won't clog up for a while, but it's honestly better just to replace them and kind of be done with it, because it does buy them a little bit more time. I'm not a huge fan of these newer Briggs engines. They're just really not made all that well. People have, if you don't have carburetor issues, which they all seem to get, the sump pan, I've picked up a few where they usually crack right about here. So when that happens, you have to replace that sump or just buy a new mower, which for most people that's what they do, because the shop's going to charge you a lot more than what the lawnmower is worth to fix that than, you know, what you could do it for yourself. So it's got oil in it, which looks reasonably clean, but it definitely does need to be washed off. Alright, so I just pinched off the fuel line, the regular pair of alligator vice grips. You have two bolts here that you'll have to remove for the carburetor, as well as this one up here. They're both different sizes. That's a 5/16. These are 9/32. Okay, the filter box is off for the time being. Now for the carburetor. What I'm actually going to do is just pull the tank off so we can get to everything just a little easier. Alright. That's off. And that's off. So I'll meet you guys up at the bench. Alright, so off camera, I did just pull the fuel line off. And those were strangely loose. They're not tight at all. So these can be a little tricky to get off sometimes, but I've found that just kind of easing them out with the blade of a flat tip screwdriver does just fine. Can't really see the fuel all that well. So these carburetors kind of have an Achilles heel, which is this jet assembly right here. It's not a matter of if, but when. I've even seen, you know, lawnmowers that have been taken care of, fuel emptied out of them at the end of every season or when they're put away for an extended length of time, and they still seem to develop this fuel issue with these. But what happens is the fuel varnishes up in these jets, and could be 6 months, could be 2 years, it just clogs up. So unfortunately, really the only way you can deal with these properly is to completely replace them. That's what I have here as a brand new one. We'll get to that in a minute. So I do have a separate video up of the clean out procedure of one of these. It's not that difficult. It just involves a really thin, tiny piece of wire to clean that out, clean these out, and then you can also pull it apart. Again, you want to be careful because this stuff is plastic and it's honestly junk. But you can see where there's some varnish and gumming built up there from old fuel. I can even see a little bit of inside. You guys kind of can't. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this out. There's really not much to these. You can just shoot a little bit of carb cleaner inside of that hole right here. Shoot a little bit here. Clean that out pretty well. And then you can clean that out as well. That goes from the gas tank into that nipple. So nothing to it. I'm not going to bother with these because we're changing them. The float looks to be in really good condition. So as mentioned earlier, here's the part number for it, 592792. And we'll go ahead and open it up. And as you can see, this is the brand new part. You guys can see the difference. So, just stick her right in. And this part with the O-ring, you can see in here there's a little cup for that to go into. This smaller one is actually in there a little bit deeper, and it just lines up with that center hole. So you just put it back in, and that's it. That's all there is to it. And one thing I did almost forget to mention is this piece right there in the middle is movable. So I'll show you guys this. You can see right there in that middle hole, you want to make sure that that hole is actually there, meaning that that part of the throat has not shifted. So make sure that that's in place, and it's actually easier to do it like this, so then you know it's straight, and then this middle piece keeps it there. There that is. No problem. So this can only go on one way. A little bit of spray lubricant on that O-ring will help it back on just fine. Those I did not put a whole lot of torque on because it's a plastic carburetor. You don't want to rip the threads out. So let's throw her back on the mower. I'm going to empty this gas tank out because it's got old gas in it. And I'll meet you guys at the end of the video. Alright, so it's all put back together. Let's give it a try. So now I'm just going to top up the oil and give it another quick bath. We'll see where we go from there. Alright, so I just topped up the oil, wiped it down again. Need to wipe down another spot right in there, but it looks a lot better than it did. I've noticed that it takes about 2 or 3 pulls to start these newer Briggs with the auto choke feature. So it runs pretty good now. I don't want to mow or test anything on it just because it doesn't have that air filter and the box that goes over it. Like I said, I'm still going to wipe down in here a little bit, but it definitely runs good now.